All right, so now we're going to talk about the repeated reading with comprehension strategy, or RRCS. First thing that I'd like to say about this particular strategy is that it can be a huge money saver. What I mean by that is for those of you that have used products specifically working on fluency, you know that they can be quite expensive. This particular strategy is 26 steps that, if followed, can replace and actually be better than most, if not all, of those really expensive fluency programs that you might be able to purchase. All you basically need are independent level passages that can be timed in about in a minute. So that's the key, independent level passages that will be timed. And just watch how this covers much of what the most popular fluency interventions do, and then some. So let's talk about what this strategy is all about. As mentioned, we need a passage that's at an independent level. That's defined as reading it at least 95% accuracy. And so the first thing that we're going to do with some of the, similar to what some of the intervention programs that you might be familiar with call a cold read. That's the first read. It's basically just getting a baseline of a few things. And I tried to record them here for you. So the first thing is they're going to read for 1 minute, and you're going to be getting a words correct per minute score. And you'll graph that after the first read. Then importantly, what you want to do is have a conversation with the child about what is fluency. And really the conversation that you would want to have about what is fluency is that fluency is not just about speed. It's one of the most common misconceptions, if you will, about what is fluency. That fluency is about rate. That's part of it. But not about speed and being a speed reader. But it's rate and accuracy and expression. So that's a huge conversation to have before you start any of this, is to clearly define what is fluency. And then, after that first read, you would go back and do the standard error correction procedure of any words that were not known. So that's the first read, and that's the process that is followed. Then there's a second read with the same passage. This is where I like this intervention a lot, is that it now adds a comprehension piece. So now, as the child rereads the passage, we're going to give a specific purpose of, so when you read, I'm going to ask you afterwards, who or what is the passage mostly about? Then have the child read for 1 minute, and then right after the child has finished after the 1 minute, ask the question, so who or what was the passage mostly about? Then, and only then, and in this order, then record the words per minute. Show the child the graph. Hopefully there's improvement from reading number 1. Have a feedback conversation about what is fluency, and then go through the standard error correction procedure for any words that were not known. So that's the second read. Then there's a third read with the same passage. Again, a comprehension question guides the purpose of this reading. And the comprehension question this time will be, what is the most important thing that you learn about, well, what was answered in the first question. So let's say the first question, who or what was the passage mostly about? Let's say it's about elephants. So this time I'm going to ask you about what is the most important thing you learn about elephants. So then again, the child reads for a minute, and you ask the question immediately afterwards. So, what is the most important thing you learned about elephants? And after that question is answered, hopefully correctly, then you talk about words per minute, you graph it, show the student the graph, have a feedback conversation about fluency, those 3 parts, remember, rate and accuracy and expression, and then go through standard error correction procedure for any words that were unknown. That's reading 3. Now for the fourth read, This time, the prompting will be that after you read this time, I'm going to ask you to predict what the rest of the passage will be about. Again, establishing that purpose. Then the child reads for a minute, then ask the child, so what do you predict the passage will be about? Then you record the words per minute, show the child the graph, hopefully again there's improvement, have a feedback conversation about fluency, how was the rate, how was the accuracy, how was the expression, and then go through standard error correction procedure for any of the unknown words. And there's a fifth particular thing that happens that's a little bit different. Now that you've read that passage 4 times, you're going to do a fifth piece, and that is you're going to read the rest of the passage. But this time you're going to do it together. And what you're going to try to do when you read it together is just push that pacing a little bit more than what you've been hearing the child read. And then after this finishing of the passage, you'll actually ask the question, so was your prediction correct? And to close this particular passage, what you'll want to then ask is, so what does this passage make you think about? They might make some text-to-text connections, some text-to-self, or some text-to-the-world connections. Just a conversation about what did this passage make you think about. Ideally, in a 20-minute time period, you would go through 2 passages doing all of these steps that I just showed you. I will tell you, in order to do that, you have to move really quickly. But try it out. See if you can get through 2 passages in 20 minutes. So there you have repeated reading with comprehension strategy.